SBR Videos is sponsored by Sports Cash System. Click on the link below for more information. Hi, welcome to SBR Forum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We are previewing Week 15 in the NFL, and right now we're talking with Scott Kellen from 6centsports.com, very well-respected professional NFL handicapper, and he gave us 2 more winners last week, bringing them to 14-8 against the spread overall on the year with us in the NFL. Very impressive record. Scott, thanks for being back with us.
You got it. Thanks for having me, Peter.
All right, well, before we get into Philly, Minnesota, give a plug for your website very quick.
Yeah, 6centsports.com. They can go out there, as we've been saying every week, very transparent. You can see the games 30 minutes after they kick off. You can see what plays we've had. Won 9 out of 11 years in the NFL, and we won 2 out of the last 3 weeks. We finished strong last year. I expect we'll finish strong again. 6centsports.com. Go out there. If you got any questions, let me know, and glad to answer any questions you might have.
Philly at Minnesota. Minnesota is a 4.5-point home underdog. The total's 51, and Minnesota, off of their close loss to Baltimore, another game that went over, so they're now 10-3 over/under on the year. And Philly, of course, off of that snow game, unbelievable, right? I bet the under at 52 at halftime. I was like, man, I was just like, I'm so sharp. I was looking in the mirror telling myself how sharp I was. Of course, the game went over. Unfrickin' believable. But that just goes to show you, I mean, nothing can stop Philly games from going over, even weather like that, when they're, when the offense is working. So right here, I guess you got to think the total at 51, even though, it hasn't moved up yet, which is a little bit surprising. That means that, neither the sharps or the public yet have bet it big. But, considering what a strong over team Minnie has been on the year, and in light of the game last week, I have to think that the over 51 is probably a decent play. What do you like here, Scott?
I will lean towards the over, and I'll go through my numbers here in a second. But the play I'm going to talk about is on Minnesota, actually, and I haven't decided on the total yet. I may end up playing the over as well. But I like the Vikings. And, if you had the under in that game, Peter, and that's pretty disappointing to lose that game, it's probably equally disappointing if you had the under in the Minnesota game when they scored whatever it was, 5 or 6 touchdowns in the last 2 minutes of that game as well. So either one was pretty disappointing if you had the under, you had that case of cash. But I like the Vikings here. When I look at the numbers, I get, and as I said in the previous video we did, I like to look late in the season at the season numbers and then just the last 4 weeks. When I look at the season numbers, I get Philly winning this game 28-26, something in that range. Now, when I do look at the last 4 weeks, I get a little bit more separation. I get Philly 33-27, so that doesn't really support Minnesota quite as much. But as you can see, both those numbers do support the over in the game, so I'm still looking at that. Defensively, these teams for the season are pretty equal, although Philly's been better recently. Rushing, these teams are pretty equal. We'll see if Peterson plays or not. Looks like Gerhardt probably will be able to play, and hopefully Adrian can play as well. The real difference in these teams is really Philly can pass the ball much better than Minnesota. Now, I haven't looked at just Matt Castle's numbers when he's been in there. I would suspect, though, that Minnesota's passing numbers are much better when he's in there. He is going to start this week, thank God, so we don't have to worry about that. And this Viking team is a very competitive team. I mean, in the last 6 games, the only game they've been blown out of is the Seattle game at Seattle, and that's somewhat understanding. And I'm going to continue to ride the Viking train. I was on them last week. I was on them 2 weeks ago against Chicago, and I was on them at Green Bay 3 weeks ago, and I was on them at Dallas a few weeks prior to that. So I think we're getting some points here. The Vikings, for me, qualify in a couple of great rushing situations. It's actually the same situation, a subset, but that's 99-41-4, and in a subset of that, which is 82-31-4, and that situation has been phenomenal this year again. The larger sample size one is 8-2 this year. It plays on good rushing teams. It's home dogs. That's the Vikings in this situation. So just with nothing else, I'm going to play that situation because it's so strong. In Philly, they're off 3 straight home games. So obviously Philly's looked great here. I think they've gone 9 straight games where they've allowed 21 or less points, which is pretty phenomenal when you think about Philly, especially where they were last year and whatnot. But they're off 3 straight road games, and road favorites of more than 3 off 3 straight home games are only 10-29 against the spread in that first road game off those 3 home games. So that does not bode well for them. They're off 3 straight home games, so they look good. Obviously, the public sees them playing well the last couple of weeks, but now they've got to go on the road. And the Vikings are playing hard, and as long as Castle's playing at quarterback, I think we get a fair shot with him, and they can be competitive in this game. I'll take my shot with the Vikings grabbing all the points, and I'll look at the total later in the week and may go over in the total as well.
All right. Yeah, you make a very compelling argument. The only thing is that Philly has, they've won 5 in a row. They've also covered 4 of their last 5. So, they're a team that's playing well right now, playing above their market valuations.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And like I said, they're not giving up points. They're hot, and they're not just hot. They're actually a good team. I think we're finding that out. But the Vikings have been competitive. Now, if Philly obviously wins this game by 7 points, I'm not surprised, obviously, because they have played so well and they are playing well. But I think it's a decent shot. I think we're getting okay value in this game. And then really what I'm riding more than anything is that strong rushing situation, which has been so good for me over the years, including this year. That's just an automatic play for me when it pops up as well.
All right, great insight. Scott Kellen from 6centsports.com. Minnesota plus 5.5. Thanks. Plus 4.5. Thanks, Scott.
You guys. Thanks, Peter.